What if the one person she feared most wasn't the men hunting her, but the stranger offering her kindness? The first gunshot split the cold morning air of Silver Creek, Colorado, and Nora Matthews ran for her life. Her torn dress slapped against her legs, and her bare, bleeding feet stumbled over sharp rocks as she fled through the back door of the saloon. Her breath came in ragged bursts. Tears mixed with dirt on her cheeks. Her body ached from days of pain. But she ran. It was 1878, and justice in this mining town was nothing more than a rumor. For 3 long weeks she had been trapped by the Blackwell gang, the same men who had raided her family's homestead, killed her father, and taken her as payment for some debt they said he owed. They had stolen her safety, her peace, and her hope. Now she was fighting for the only thing left, her life. Nora pushed herself up the steep mountain path behind the town, her lungs burning and her legs shaking. She didn't look back. She didn't dare. She just climbed higher, letting the foothills swallow her from sight. When she finally collapsed behind a large boulder, the sun was just beginning to rise, painting the valley gold. From here, Silver Creek looked peaceful, almost beautiful. But she knew the truth. That town had been her prison. A twig snapped behind her. Nora froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. She pressed herself tighter to the rock and squeezed her eyes shut. "They found me." "Don't move," a deep voice commanded. Her breath stopped. She waited for the rough hands, the cruel laughter, the familiar terror. She braced for pain. "You're bleeding," the voice said, softer now. That wasn't what she expected. Nora turned slowly, her body trembling. Instead of one of Blackwell's men, she found a tall cowboy standing a few steps away. His clothes were dusty and worn, his denim faded, and a wide-brimmed hat shaded his face. But she could see his eyes, blue as a summer sky. "I'm not going back," Nora rasped, her voice raw. The man knelt down but kept a respectful distance. "I'm not taking you anywhere, miss. My name is Miles Callahan. I've got a cabin up this trail. You look like you need help." "I don't need a man's help," Nora whispered, trying to crawl backward despite the pain in her feet. Miles nodded calmly. "I understand why you'd say that. But those cuts need tending. And you're far from anywhere safe." He placed his canteen on the ground between them, then stepped back several paces. "Take a drink," he said, leaning against a tree and turning his face away to give her space. "I'll stay right here while you decide." Nora stared at him. He kept his distance. He didn't reach for her. He didn't demand anything. It confused her more than threats ever had. Her throat burned, dry as sand. After a moment of hesitation, she reached for the canteen and drank deeply. The cool water steadied her enough to think. "Why help me?" she called out, her voice shaking. Miles didn't move closer. "Because it's right. No questions. No debt." Nora searched his face for lies, for the signs she'd learned to fear. But his expression was open, honest. He looked like a man who worked with his hands, lived simply, and meant what he said. "I can't walk," she admitted. "My feet—" "I figured as much." He nodded toward the trees. "I've got a horse nearby. I can bring him here. I'll help you up gentle as I can." Gentle. No one had used that word for her in years. When he brought the horse around, a sturdy brown gelding, Miles approached slowly, like one might approach a frightened animal. "May I?" he asked, motioning toward her. It was her choice. Nora nodded. He lifted her carefully, so carefully she felt almost weightless. He placed her on the horse without gripping too tight, then mounted behind her, leaving space so she wouldn't feel trapped. "My cabin is just ahead," he said. "You'll be safe there." Safe? She tried not to believe it, afraid it might hurt if she hoped too soon. The cabin appeared around a bend. A sturdy structure of logs and stone. Smoke drifted gently from the chimney. A small corral sat nearby, and the mountain view stretched endlessly beyond. "It's not much," Miles said quietly, "but it's peaceful." He helped her inside. The cabin was simple but clean, with a stone fireplace, a table, a bed in the corner, and shelves lined with books. Books. Something soft stirred inside her, something she thought she'd lost. Miles filled a basin with clean water. "I need to take care of your feet," he said. "This might sting." Nora tensed as he reached for her. Memories crashed over her. Pain, laughter, darkness. Miles pulled his hand back instantly. "I won't touch you without permission." The room fell silent. "They said I'd never heal," Nora whispered. "They said I was ruined." Miles's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed gentle. "They were wrong." He waited for her nod. When she gave it, he cleaned her wounds with a touch so light she hardly felt it. Then he wrapped her feet in clean bandages and prepared a simple meal. He kept his voice low. His movements steady, he offered safety without demanding trust. She found herself watching him, his quiet strength, his patience, his respect. When exhaustion pulled her under, Miles offered her the bed and slept by the fire. He even showed her how to bar the door from the inside. "You'll be safe," he promised. For the first time in weeks, Nora believed it might be true. That night, she slept peacefully. And Miles Callahan kept watch, gentle every step. Nora woke late the next morning, the soft light of the sun slipping through the cabin window. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she remembered the mountain trail, the horse, the quiet man with the sky-blue eyes who promised to be gentle. Someone knocked softly on the door. "Miss Matthews, I brought fresh water for washing." His voice was calm and steady, never pushing, never demanding. Nora slowly stood, her bandaged feet throbbing but far better than they had been. She lifted the bar from the door and opened it to find Miles standing several feet back, holding a bucket of water and a small bundle of clothes. "Good morning," he said. "These clothes belong to my sister. She left them last summer. I thought they might fit you." Nora took the clothes with careful hands. "Thank you." Miles nodded once. "I'll be outside. Take your time." After he stepped away, Nora washed herself, letting the cool water rinse away the dirt and pain of the days behind her. She slipped into the cotton dress. It was a little big, but it was clean, whole, safe. When she stepped outside, Miles was tending to his horse near the corral. He looked up and gave her a small smile. "You look better," he said. "I feel better," Nora admitted. Inside the cabin, he had prepared breakfast, flapjacks and coffee. They ate quietly, but the silence wasn't heavy. It felt like warmth filling the small room. "What will you do now?" Miles asked gently. Nora stared at her cup. "I don't know." "I can't go back to Silver Creek. Blackwell's men will be looking for me." Miles's jaw tightened at the name. "I figured as much. They're known in these parts." She studied him. "You know them, quote." "Everyone knows them," he said. "They've been hurting folks for years." Nora swallowed. "They killed my father. Then they took me." She expected him to ask more, but he didn't. He simply nodded, his eyes full of quiet understanding. "You could stay here until you heal," Miles said. "After that, if you want, I can help you get to Denver. My sister would take you in." The offer caught her off guard. Denver was far. It was safe. It was a chance to start over, but something in her tightened. She wasn't sure she could step into another stranger's home. Not yet. "I can work," she said quickly. "I don't want to be a burden." Miles shook his head. "You're not a burden, but if it makes you more comfortable, I could use help around here." So began their days. Simple, quiet, steady. Nora rested when she needed to. Miles worked in the garden and tended to the traps he set in the mountains. He taught her which herbs helped pain, which plants healed wounds. She cooked simple meals, mended clothes, and swept the small cabin. It was peaceful, something she had forgotten life could be. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Miles returned from checking his traps with a troubled look. "Riders in the valley," he said. 3 men asking questions down by the mining camps. Descriptions match Blackwell's men. Quote, Fear gripped Nora's chest. "Miles, they'll find me." "No," he said firmly. "You're safer here than anywhere else. They don't know this place exists, but stay close to the cabin until they move on." That night, Nora couldn't sleep. Every sound outside jolted her awake, Miles noticed. "I couldn't sleep after the war," he said, softly from his bedroll near the fire. "Nightmares kept coming back, but they faded, little by little." "I see them when I close my eyes," Nora whispered. "Every night, what they did, how they looked at me." Miles didn't move closer. He didn't touch her, he just spoke calmly. It takes time, and it takes someone who listens. You're not alone, Nora. Her throat tightened. Without thinking, she reached out in the darkness. Her hand brushed his. He didn't pull away. He let her decide how close to be. For the first time in weeks, her heartbeat slowed. By morning, she felt stronger. Days passed. Slowly, the terror loosened its grip on her. Slowly, she learned to breathe again. One afternoon, Miles said, "We need supplies. I usually trade in Pine Hollow." Quote. Nora hesitated. Leaving the cabin frightened her, but fear was another chain, and she was tired of chains. "I'll come," she said. Miles smiled, a soft one that changed his whole face. "We'll leave at dawn." The ride to Pine Hollow was beautiful. Streams glistened, wildflowers dotted the trail, and the mountains rose tall and quiet. Miles pointed out birds and deer tracks, speaking in a gentle voice that made the wilderness feel safe. Pine Hollow was small, just a store, a hotel, a blacksmith, but it felt huge after weeks on the mountain. People stared. Miles stayed close but didn't crowd her. At the general store, the shopkeeper nodded at Miles. "Been a while." "Had work to do," Miles said. "This is Miss Matthews. She's recovering from an illness." Nora saw the curiosity in the man's eyes, but he said nothing more. Miles bought supplies, then added a bolt of blue fabric and sewing needles to the pile. "I can't let you buy this for me," she whispered. "It's payment for the meals you've made," he replied simply. They ate lunch at the small hotel, sitting by the window. Nora felt almost normal for a moment. Then 3 riders entered town, dust-covered, sharp-eyed, Blackwell's men. Nora froze. Miles. "They're here." He had already seen them. "Stay calm. They haven't spotted us yet." But one man turned toward the window. Their eyes met. He recognized her. Miles stood at once. Out the back, now. They slipped through the kitchen, out the back door, and hid behind a water trough. Miles moved like he had done this before. Quick, silent, alert. Nora's heart raced as angry voices shouted from the street. "The woman belongs to Blackwell." Terror stabbed through her. Then a hand touched her shoulder. "Miles, I've got thunder ready. Stay low behind me." They fled through the back of the town, racing toward the trees where thunder waited. Within seconds, Miles had her in the saddle. He mounted behind her and urged the horse forward. "Hold tight," he murmured. They rode hard into the forest, branches whipping past, the sound of pursuit fading behind them. They didn't stop for nearly an hour. When they finally slowed, Nora trembled so hard she could barely breathe. "They found me," she whispered. "They'll never stop." Miles tightened his hold, not trapping but steady. "They won't find you again," he promised. "I know these mountains. I won't let them get near you." They reached the cabin long after dark. Nora sank into a chair, shaking. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Why risk yourself for me?" Miles knelt in front of her, his voice quiet. "You're not a burden. You're not ruined. You deserve safety. If I can give even a little of that, then I will." Nora felt tears rise. For the first time, someone saw her as more than the pain she carried. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But she knew one thing. Miles Callahan would be gentle every step. The morning sun warmed the cabin walls, but Nora felt cold. The fear from Pine Hollow still clung to her, wrapping tight around her chest. She stepped outside to breathe the mountain air, hoping it would calm her racing thoughts. For a week, things remained quiet. Miles kept watch from the ridge each evening. He checked the trails for fresh tracks. He stayed close, but not too close, always giving her the space she needed. And slowly, Nora began to believe they might truly be safe again. She cooked. He chopped wood. They talked more each day. Small things at first. His favorite season. Her mother's bread recipe. The sound of rain on the cabin roof. It felt like healing. Real, gentle healing. Something she had never thought she would feel again. But danger found them anyway. It happened on a clear morning. Miles had gone to the western ridge to check his traps. Nora stayed behind to tend the garden. The warm dirt between her fingers felt comforting. She hummed softly, something she hadn't done since she was a girl. Then she heard it. Horses. Not one. 3. Nora's head snapped up. Her heart stopped. Jeb Blackwell rode into the clearing. His scarred face twisted into a smile when he saw her. His brothers flanked him, their eyes filled with the same cruelty she remembered. "Well, look at this," Jeb sneered. "Our runaway." Nora froze. There was nowhere to run. The mountain behind her was steep, and a cabin sat wide open in front of them. Jeb dismounted with slow, cruel confidence. "Thought you could hide from me? Thought you could start fresh?" He shook his head. "Your daddy owed me. You belonged to me. And now you owe me for the trouble you caused." Nora backed up until her shoulders touched the cabin wall. Her hands shook as she held a small gardening trowel. It was the only thing she had. "Stay back," she warned, her voice trembling. Jeb laughed. "You think that little tool is going to stop me?" He lunged. Nora swung wildly, catching him across the cheek. A line of blood appeared. His face twisted in rage. "You'll pay for that," he growled, grabbing her wrist. His grip was iron. Pain shot up her arm. Nora cried out. But then a gunshot rang across the mountainside. Jeb staggered, clutching his shoulder. "Let her go," a voice commanded. "Miles." He stood on the ridge above, rifle aimed steady, his face carved with fury she had never seen before. "This ain't your fight, Callahan," one brother shouted. "The girl belongs to us." Miles's voice was calm, deadly, certain. "She belongs to no one." Jeb snarled. "3 of us. One of you. Don't be stupid." "He's not alone," another voice called. Nora turned to see 3 riders appearing from the eastern trail. Mr. Porter from Pine Hollow and 2 other men from town. Each held a rifle aimed at the Blackwells. "Word spreads fast," Porter said. "We don't tolerate men like you around here." The odds shifted in a heartbeat. Jeb's bravado faded. His eyes darted between the guns pointed at him. "This ain't over," he hissed. "Oh, it is," Miles said, stepping closer. "Go, now!" With no choice, the Blackwell brothers mounted their horses and fled down the trail. Their shouts faded into the valley, swallowed by distance. Only when they were gone did Miles lower his rifle. He ran to Nora, his eyes searching her face. "Are you hurt?" he asked, breathless. She shook her head, but tears filled her eyes. I thought you wouldn't make it." "I will always come back for you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Always." Quote. Nora stepped toward him. Her hand shook as she reached up and touched his chest, feeling the strong, steady beat of his heart. "Miles, why? Why risk everything for me?" He covered her hand with his own. He didn't rush. He didn't pull her close. He just held her there, letting her choose. "You're not a stranger anymore," he said softly. "And some people are worth fighting for." Nora felt something break open inside her, something heavy she had carried for too long. She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his chest. "I'm safest with you," she whispered. "I want to stay, if you'll have me." Miles gently lifted her chin. His blue eyes were warm, steady, full of something she had once believed she would never feel again. "I love you, Nora Matthews," he said. Her breath caught. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time they were soft, warm, full of hope. "I love you too," she whispered. "You showed me what gentleness really is." He kissed her then, slow, careful, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. She kissed him back, letting herself feel safe in someone's arms for the first time in her life. Everything changed after that. Miles expanded the cabin. Nora planted a new garden, bigger than before. She began sewing again, making quilts and dresses that people in Pine Hollow loved. The Blackwell gang was hunted by the law, forced far from the territory. Nora was finally free. They married on the mountainside with a handful of friends around them. Miles's sister came from Denver and hugged Nora tight. "Your family now," she said. Months later, when the first snow arrived, Nora placed Miles's hand gently over her stomach. "I have something to tell you," she said. His eyes widened. "We're going to have a baby." The joy in his face was brighter than the fire glowing behind him. He pulled her close, holding her like the most precious thing in the world. "You've made me the happiest man alive," he whispered. Their daughter was born in spring. They named her Hope, because that was what Miles had given Nora the moment he found her hiding behind that boulder. Years later, when the mountain was quiet and the children were asleep, Miles often wrapped his arms around her on the porch. "Any regrets?" he would ask. Nora would lean into him, feeling the steady beat of the man who saved her, healed her, loved her gently, every step of the way. "Not one," she'd say. "Not one."